My brothers and sisters in Christ, we continue with the Christmas season. In today's Gospel, the Magi visit Jesus, laying gifts at his feet. Mary ponders the meaning of all of these things in her heart, something we all should do. Ask ourselves, why Christmas matters to me today. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of King Herod, behold, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising, and have come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Assembling all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it has been written through the prophet, And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, since from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and ascertained from them the time of the star's appearance. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search diligently for the child. When you have found him, bring me word, that I too may go and do him homage." After their audience with the king, they set out, and behold, the star that had been seen at its rising preceded them, until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then they opened their treasures and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country by another way. The Gospel of the Lord. "2020 was a doozy of a year. Things we never thought would happen, happened. First there was COVID, then the upheaval of sports, the imposition of social distance, quarantining, travel restrictions, and panic buying. Uncertain of the future, Americans stockpiled everything from frozen food to toilet paper. Who knew we all needed so much Charmin? In the midst of the chaos unleashed by COVID, we also witnessed a divisive election, social unrest, online learning, and finally, the discovery of several vaccines that promise to return our lives to normal. Some say we can't turn back. Rather, 2021 will usher in a new normal, whatever that means. 2020 taught us that sometimes life just has a way of taking dramatic, unexpected turns, for better or for worse. Part of our happiness depends upon how well we adapt to those changes. The more we roll with the punches, the more flexible we are, the better. The Gospels paint a similar roller coaster experience, roll with the punches, for Mary. That first Christmas night was part of no ordinary year. Rather, it was the most extraordinary year imaginable. First, an angel appears to Mary, promising she'll conceive the Son of God in her womb. Then she has to tell Joseph. After Jesus is born, shepherds come to do him homage, while Magi from the east arrive, laying gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh at his feet. When King Herod finds out about Christ's birth, he issues a death warrant for every boy under the age of 2, forcing Mary and Joseph to flee to Egypt. Like 2020, that was no ordinary year. It was quite extraordinary. But in the midst of the chaos, Mary did something we all should do. She paused. She pondered. She reflected upon these events piecing together the meaning of them in her heart. As we begin 2021, perhaps that's something we all can do. Pause. Ponder. Question the meaning of it all. Not just the meaning of 2020, but more importantly, the meaning and the relevance of that first Christmas night in our own lives today. For example, the Gospels tell us that Jesus was born in a manger. This was a special image for the first Christians who understood the word manger to be another word for feeding trough. Jesus was born in a feeding trough. Why not a king-size bed? Why must he be born in a trough? Just as animals receive nourishment from food placed in a trough, so Christians are meant to feed on Christ. He is nourishment for our souls. We feed on Christ's words and even his body and blood in the Eucharist, promises that were foreseen that first Christmas night. We feed on Christ. But Jesus was also wrapped in swaddling clothes. Like the feeding trough, this image of a blanket carries with it deep symbolic meaning. Just as a blanket was conformed to Christ's body, literally wrapped snugly around him, so we are meant to wrap ourselves around Christ. We place our joys, our sorrows, our desires, and 2021 at his feet. What would the opposite approach be? To try wrapping God around ourselves, deciding on our own who we think God should be and how he should act in our lives. As we begin the new year, how can we wrap ourselves more fully around Christ? Maybe it's something as minor as changing a habit. For example, many of us are in the habit of either coming to Mass or tuning in online at least once a month. What if we upped it to once a week? Or even attended a daily Mass, or found a daily Mass to watch online? There can be immense spiritual benefits that come from feeding on Christ's Word, and when possible, Christ in the Eucharist. Or what would happen if we increased the amount of time we spent privately in prayer, or did some spiritual reading? Would we see the world, and even ourselves, differently? Or perhaps we're being invited to greater flexibility with our time. Instead of writing our own plans for the day, be open to the whims of the Spirit. Like that first Christmas, 2020 was a doozy of a year. Only God knows what 2021 holds. But if we take Mary's approach, if we pause and ponder, then we may find a deeper meaning behind it all. That would be a blessed new normal, seeing God at work in every moment of our lives, especially in those strange, most unexpected twists and turns that inevitably lie ahead.